Hello, we are broadcasted from in the basement at an undisclosed location.
Imagine a factory that produces one dish, a singular dish. The entire factory produces one dish, a magical dish.
I like dishes, KM Hemmans.
Who doesn't, narrator? This factory is a strange factory because the dish is the factory. The dish produces itself. The dish contains within it all the materials required to make itself from itself.
Interesting, KM Hemmans.
It produces the same dish over and over, but every time it does, it loses a little bit of the dish. A tiny piece of the dish, so small it cannot be noticed on the dish. The dish seems the same, imperceptible to the naked eyes, but something is missing, something crucial, so important that as soon as one dish is made, that little piece is taken away, and the countdown begins. The doomsday clock begins. At first, there was one dish, and then it regenerates itself to become a new dish. One dish, two dish, red dish, blue dish, black dish, blue dish, old dish, new dish. One dish, a beautiful dish, a wondrous, stupendous, and immaculate dish. Within it is the ability to reproduce itself. Now this is far-fetched, and I know it seems preposterous, but suspend your disbelief for a moment. As I said, within it, it contains the materials needed to reproduce itself, and even more, it contains technology, much like our own, but even more advanced than ours. Within this dish is a 3D printer, and that is how it self-generates. So far, we have a dish, and within it is a 3D printer.
What is a 3D printer, KM Hemmans?
A 3D printer is like a regular printer, but instead of printing on pages, it cuts blocks out of plastics into shapes like toys, prostheses, gun barrels, or any shape you can imagine. A 3D printer is a machine that makes what it is programmed to make. Now our dish has one within it, and it makes the dish over and over. Whenever the 3D printer decides it wants to replicate itself by splitting into another identical dish, it does. One dish becomes two dishes. This dish multiplies itself by itself. What a dish! Imagine if you possessed such a dish. What would you do? I would turn one dish into two and sell one of them. If it don't need materials or any investment and the dish splits itself into two on its own, I would have a fortune selling dishes.
I sense there was a catch.
Indeed, narrator. This dish cannot replicate forever. It has a limit, and once it reaches that limit, it loses its ability to split into two dishes, and its destruction is now inevitable. Why does this happen? Why does it suddenly stop multiplying? You see, the 3D printer has a code that tells it the shape of the dish and its contents, what it is made of, and how it can reproduce itself. Now this code, which is the source of the power, the wisdom in which this entire process is possible, has one flaw. Every time the dish prints another dish, it loses a little bit of this code, and after 40 to 60 replications, so much of the code has been lost that the printer cannot print any more dishes. This code allows it to be possible, and without it, the dish cannot be replicated. If parts of the code weren't lost every time the dish multiplied, then the dish could print and reproduce itself forever and ever and ever. This magical dish exists. It is called a cell. Within all of us are cells, And those cells have everything they need to reproduce themselves from themselves, like that dish. The 3D printer in this metaphor
is RNA and DNA.
It is the machine that reproduces the dish over and over again. And that code is lost bit by bit with each repetition of this process. That code that is lost is called telomeres. Telomeres are the protective caps on the ends of the strands of DNA called chromosomes, which house our genomes. They shorten with each cell division, and when they reach a critical length, the cell stops dividing or dies. This is what stops cells from continuously regenerating themselves and causes aging and natural death. As the telomeres shorten, just like in our metaphor where the code is being lost to the 3D printer, there is a limit. Around 40 to 60 times each cell can replicate or each dish can divide. It is no longer able to do so. This limit is called the Hayflick limit. The Hayflick limit is an idea that helps to explain cellular aging. Why do you age? The concept states that a normal human cell can only replicate and divide 40 to 60 times before it cannot divide anymore and will break down by programmed cell death. We cannot live forever because our cells cannot replicate forever because they cannot pass the Hayflick limit.
There is a cell, however,
that does not have the Hayflick limit. A cell that can multiply itself over and over, and so it never ages. It is always youthful, vibrant, hopeful. This cell has broken many homes, many hearts, and caused untold grief through human history. We, as a human nation, fear it. We worry over it and have huge campaigns against it. We raise money to fight it in vain. This cell is called cancer. It has no Hayflick limit, and so it multiplies itself endlessly until it consumes its host.
Oh, why is this world so barbarous, so heartbreaking?
Why does a cell exist that has no Hayflick limit, such as cancer, the scourge of our world? Do not grieve, mankind. Do not grieve, mankind. There are two other cells that have no Hayflick limit and can reproduce themselves endlessly, ensuring survival and propagation throughout this world. These cells are not cancer. They don't grieve and cause heartbreak. They are from where we were sprung and contain our very blueprint. The only other cells in the human body that has no Hayflick limit is the sperm cell and the egg cell. Replicate, oh replicate and live, mankind, live.